welcome you all to the Monday, April 29th Mayor and Council meeting. It is open mic night, so thank you all for coming out. And I would like to ask Mrs. Tizer, would you lead us in the pledge? Again, I welcome you. I think most of you know the drill. You have 5 minutes to speak, and if you would please fill out a comment card, and when you come up to the podium, you can leave it right to the left of the podium, if you would please. So let's get started. Who would like to come forward first? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Mary Dale Rogers. I live in Old Town Roswell, right off of Highway 9. I'd like to address the Gateway project that's planned. I was on a committee, a citizen committee for this plan years ago, I think maybe 2012, and we discussed different ways to solve this problem. Roundabouts were never discussed, never brought up. I came to the plan, I don't know what it was, a meeting that had all the plans afterwards, and there were the roundabouts. We never discussed them. Somebody knew ahead of time, this is what they wanted, and this is what it was put on there. It wasn't discussed with the citizens. I got the feeling that the only reason they had these meetings was to check off a box, that they were going to do, the Roswell DOT was going to do what they wanted to do without citizen input, really. So I'm still very concerned about the Gateway project. The 4 lanes, the 2 roundabouts, the flyover. It's overkill for 1 mile. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Rogers. Who would like to come forward next? Yes, sir.
Thank you. My name is Ashok Nagrani. I'm a 46-year resident of Roswell. I have property on the Gateway project. It's a little shopping center, and the plans that I've seen will severely impact both the value of my property and the business of my tenants. With the roadway coming right up to the curb on my property in the parking lot, I lose a 75-year-old tree. I lose my monument sign, and the actual parking itself is not impacted, but the road will come right up to the curb line. What will be affected, though, is the business of my tenants. They will be affected a lot, and consequently, the rents that we can charge will have to be reduced. And the resale value of that property is going to be severely impacted. So my plea to the council would be, please have a little less ambitious project. I know we do need an extra lane because the 3-lane system that we have right now is untenable. But there can be a design done where most of the needs can be met if we have 2 lanes going north and 2 lanes going south without the extra wide lanes that we are looking at right now. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am, please come forward.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Claire Barnes. I live at 19 Revival Street. And I'm going to read this because it's just easier. To To become a member of the Georgia Municipal Organization, okay. To become a member of the Georgia Municipal Organization, or GMA, Roswell adopted a resolution establishing the 5 ethics principles for the conduct of our city's officials. These principles are designed to guide the elected officials as individuals and as a governing body. These principles are: serve others, not yourselves; use resources with efficiency and economy; treat all people fairly; use the power of your position for the well-being of your constituents; create an environment of honesty, openness, and integrity. However, we have been in the news recently for doing exactly the opposite. Case in point, leasing of the Lita Thompson apartments has been anything but ethical and transparent. These apartments were given to the city with an agreement to lease them for 5 years to low-income individuals. The city supposedly fulfilled their obligation many years ago and have been leasing the apartments with no guidelines. Some of the infractions to the GMA ethics guidelines are as follows. Apartments are rented to family and friends of Rec and Parks Department employees, city officials, and friends. Potential renters are added to a wait list for a property that has never been advertised to the public at large. Anyone that Rec and Parks leasing agent or official designates can upsert the wait list. There is no salary/income cap for someone to rent an apartment, even though the rents are well below market value and subsidized by the City of Roswell taxpayers. No one can answer how rents are calculated. At lease assignment, income information is requested, but no guidelines are established on what each resident pays. But somehow a below-market rate is calculated for each resident. As in the case of the city administrator, his lease is month to month, when all others are required to sign annual leases. As in the city's administrator's case, he never paid a lease deposit, when all others seem to have been required to pay a deposit. No one could answer whether residents receiving reduced rents, as all residents living in Lita Thompson apartments do, or even Roswell residents. Are residents of Lita Thompson apartments, especially city employees who upsert the list, given a 1099 for the benefit of receiving taxpayer-funded below-market rate housing? I have some questions for the city. How is this serving others, not yourselves? How is this treating all people fairly? How is this using the power of your position for the well-being of your constituents? How does this create an environment of honesty, openness, and integrity? Now that this has become public, what becomes of Lita Thompson apartments? My fear is they're going to be torn down. After Mr. Palmer announced that transcription of meeting minutes would be discontinued because it wasn't his job to coddle residents, we now have him living in Roswell taxpayer-subsidized housing. Strike two, Mr. Palmer. I'd like to add also that Councilman Grower took a campaign donation from a developer's sister without disclosing it, voted to award impact fee funds to the developer to build a cut-through in the most historic neighborhood in the city of Roswell, the Mill Village. Council and city officials, check your ethics. This is a voting year, people. Y'all need to vote. Thank you.
I would like to point something out for the group and on the record. The Lita Thompson apartments are something that this council inherited. And back in February, I started an internal task force with staff. And right now, we are looking into all of the issues that revolve around the Lita Thompson Park. We're freezing it. No one comes in. We're not renewing leases until we get this straightened out. You are correct. We do need to have the processes and procedures in place going forward with Lita Thompson. There were none in the past, and I can apologize for a previous council, but I do want to let you all know that we are following through on this, and we're going to make sure that we have policies, processes, and procedures in place that all meet the Fair Housing Act while we are in the business of owning and renting apartments. So I did want to state that for the record. And Councilmember Grower, I'm going to let you respond since you were named.
If you think that a small donation is going to buy my vote when I donated my entire salary to children with autism, you really don't trust your government, do you? I'm sorry.
Is there someone else that would like to come forward? Yes, sir. Or yes, ma'am. Sorry, I thought it was the gentleman behind you, Miss Russell.
Good evening. My name is Janet Russell. I, too, am a resident of Roswell for 46 years. First of all, I'll just open with this quote: "Democracy dies behind closed doors." I like to start with something positive that I learned from Sam Evans. He always said, start with something positive, and I want to acknowledge Bill McSweeney, who manages this building. Bill has made it his personal commitment to clean up and maintain our Faces of War Memorial, which has been neglected almost since the day it was opened. It has been covered with mineral deposits. The pump never works. It looks like crap. It was trivialized when they tried to move it behind the slave quarters for the city green because it was just in the way of redevelopment. Much like our Vietnam veterans have been trivialized and ignored, that memorial has been a metaphor for my generation of men that went to war and never got welcomed home. Mr. McSweeney cleaned it himself and hand-rubbed it with oil that he researched to find what was the best oil to maintain it. It looks better than the day we dedicated it. And I want to give him the acknowledgement. He has made the commitment that it will be maintained in the future as long as he works here. You know, we only ever fix it up the week of Memorial Day because we got company coming on Memorial Day. For 3 hours, we pretend like we love our veterans. The rest of the year, not so much. I noticed while I was here putting flowers on the memorial that we're re-landscaping the City Hall property, and it looks really pretty. I guess we spent about $100,000. While I was here, the guys were putting in the irrigation system for the lawn, because we don't get enough rain in Georgia, so we need irrigation. And I wondered why, or if anyone ever considered capturing the water that comes on the roof and keeping it in cisterns, much like large rain barrels, because this water, as I understand, is going to have to come from the Roswell Water Department. And we're already going to be under enough stress with all of the infill building that is coming on in this area that is served only by the city of Roswell. The island of Bermuda, for example, has no natural water supplies at all, no rivers, no lakes. Every construction has water capturing process with cisterns under every home, public building, whatever. The city of Roswell might want to consider becoming a little greener and capturing the water on this huge roof to water all the plants that are here. Also, while I was out putting the flowers, I walked to the corner of Hill Street and 9. You know where that sign is? It says Roswell Municipal Complex. Just screams 1980. I don't believe it's been pressure washed since it was built. It is filthy, filthy, filthy dirty. The cement finials on top of the brick colonnades, filthy dirty. No benches, no plants, no nothing. That's like putting $100,000 into renovating your house but having a broken screen door for the front. That's the first thing people see, and it looks like garbage. Sorry I get upset, but I've been all over Atlanta this weekend, and everybody else has got a bench every time you turn around. I'd also like, I suggested 2 years ago, to solarize every publicly owned roof in this city. Based on what we could get back in electricity, it would pay for itself. I've asked, and I'll ask again. We sold we bought the Southern Skillet property for $5 million. We drained the solid waste management fund. I want to know where that money's going now that we're getting it back. No one has ever answered. They've only told me in a very quiet voice that the profit will go to the DDA, which gave us nothing. We leased it to them for $1. I went to the bank and I found out that if we had kept the money in the bank for 5 years, we would have made $500,000 in interest based on 2%, and based on 3%, we would have made $750,000. So basically, the Southern Skillet property was a lose, 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 lose for the taxpayers of Roswell. There's going to be 130 apartments at the Skillet, 40,000 square feet of retail, 70,000 square feet of office space. That's why the front of the library got raised. That is the fact. I said I would tell you after the fact what the facts are. The councilman knows who I'm referring to, who implied that I didn't know the facts. The city, I went to the budget meeting, all they did was complain about how there's no money, there's no money, there's no money, there's no money. There's money. You spent $1.97 million on the East Alley project, which is a total joke because there's garbage cans that stink of sewage and rotten garbage. The restaurants have done nothing to improve it. You walk back there, there's trash cans, dumpsters, air conditioning units, employees having cigarettes. It's certainly not that beautiful design we saw. I know that code enforcement's going to be brought back in-house. I think that's interesting. For anyone that's in this audience watching, I suggest you Google the name Andrew Wardis, and you will know why we privatized it. And finally, I would like to thank the city for caring so much about women's health. I noticed the new sculpture put up on the corner of the Hagen property at Canton Street and Norcross Street. It reminds me of a speculum. So it will remind each and every woman, every time she sees it, that she should be sure to get her cervical checkup and her pap smear. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Russell. Is there anyone else that would like to come forward? Yes.
I'm too tall for this. Name is Jacob Christner. I'm a resident for 3 years here in Roswell. Looking to stay, actually. Got one question for you. This is my first time at one of these meetings, and I wanted to ask the whole council this question. Is like, because we have some legitimate concerns here that everybody's brought up. Cisterns, the top roofs, the cleaning, all that. If we came up with an idea over time, it could be a year, it could be however long, about doing the citizens doing like a GoFundMe or something along those lines, would you guys match it? Would you match it yourselves? I mean, they're saying that there's no money, and I'm not complaining. Right, this is my first time here. I'm just asking. I'm just giving a thing. Would you guys match it if we came up with an idea like that? That would be if we did a GoFundMe or something along those lines for things that need to be done. Would they be matched? Could it possibility?
Sir, I'll respond to all your questions when you're finished.
No. I'm done. I'm just asking.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Let me just say this, and I won't get on my soapbox too long. All of the elected officials up here have given up time away from their families, away from their jobs, and I'm not playing a violin. I'm just telling you the facts. We don't get paid for a lot that we do here in Roswell as an elected official. I personally do it because I'm passionate about it and I love doing the work. And I just feel like it's a dream job for me. But like I said, I get paid very little for it. And luckily, I'm at a point in my life where I can afford to give up income. And we are empty nesters now, so that impact isn't as great as it once was. So what I would like to say to you all is we are trying to be good stewards of the taxpayer dollars. We are bringing forward a budget that is very tight, it's very lean, and I personally am offended that anyone would ask me, personally, as a citizen of Roswell, to put the little amount of money that I make doing this into a GoFundMe page. So I will not speak for the rest of the council, but like I said, I personally take exception to that. We dedicate a lot of time and resources to the city of Roswell. You all might not agree with each and every one of us on each and every decision we make, but I can assure you that we are doing the best that we can do and working with our staff to make sure that city services remain high and taxes remain low. Is there anyone else that would like to come forward and speak? Yes, sir.
Hi, guys. I'm Bob Evers, HOA president of Willow Springs subdivision. I know several of you guys and appreciate what you do. I have seen what you get paid, and as an HOA unpaid volunteer, I appreciate it, and I see all the work. And compliments to the, Sean asked me, I'm going to talk about retrofitting sidewalks, and he asked me to look at the city council DOT meeting that took place in late March, and it was excellent. So kudos for having a good system where busy people can absorb and digest what you guys do, and certainly gave me a sense of the effort and time you guys put into this. So quickly, again, I wanted to respond to that meeting that you had and just say a couple things. One is, I think a couple other neighbors are going to be here shortly, and if there's time, they'll speak and show support. But I just wanted to give a quick history and, again, response a little bit and to the retrofit concept. Our neighborhood was built in the late 70s, early 80s. It was a very rural area, no cut-throughs, 1/3 the traffic we have today. The city, we were unincorporated Fulton at that time, and in the 90s we joined the city of Roswell looking to be part of what we thought was a cool and productive relationship. And in the early 2000s, the city was very in favor of walkability and sidewalks and offered to help us with split the cost 50-50 and to put sidewalks at least on some of the main streets in our neighborhood. We have about 3.5, 4 miles that are highly traversed by everybody on bikes, to strollers, to hikers, to joggers. And so back then, Asenbrack was he educated us on walkability and the power of connectivity, and we bought in, and we've been trying to make this happen in our own neighborhood. And so that's a little history. The status today, again, our neighborhood is a cut-through. We have lots of traffic, thin streets, and it's unsafe. We've had 3 people hit by cars, fortunately none severe, hit by an SUV with the mirror going by as they're jogging, and those types of issues. We have a neighborhood where the parents are afraid to let their children go even 3 or 4 doors down to their friend's house without, holding their hand, and they will not let them ride bikes, obviously. So it's crazy, and we have a huge influx of young families coming right now into our neighborhood. I don't know if that's happening everywhere, but we are blessed to have that happen in force right now. Today, a point of frustration is that we pay the taxes, which include paying for everybody else's sidewalks, which are code. And, that's just a point of frustration. And we believe we can obtain the approval of our neighbors to go self-fund sidewalks. And we're not asking for you guys' money, but we are asking for your help, as you'll hear in a second. So we just went through a $300,000 investment to build an enhanced entrance for us. It'd been a long time since it had been done. Neighbors didn't flinch on this. $300,000, divided by the HOA homes. So we believe we can get an approval to proceed with this. So we don't think we're wasting your time or our time doing it. I know we all have a lot of better things to do. So I would just like to say we need your help, and we need a can-do attitude. We don't need excuses about, I realize the realities of budget constraints and labor constraints, but we appreciate a can-do attitude to figure out how to work together to get this done, improving safety, improving quality of life, helping us get up to speed on the codes that you guys have deemed are important. We need your help on that. And please, I hope we don't have to get 100 people down here, saying how much they support this to offset the handful of squeaky wheels that are opposed to this. I think they've poisoned the well for some of you guys, or certainly the prior city council. And we get that no project's ever going to have 100% buy-in, but we're seeking to do a greater good that'll hopefully save a life, certainly improve values for the city and for our neighborhood, improve walkability. We hope to connect to the Greenway, which is not far from us. And so we just need your help. And I'm just planting a seed that we'll work with you guys. We'll figure this out, and just ask for you to support us. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Who would like to come forward next? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Dawn Flock, and I've lived in this town for about 5 years. I don't know if this is the right audience, so if it's not, please speak up, because I don't want to waste your time. I just appreciate you taking the time to hear me out. I live in a neighborhood with homes from the 1960s, a very desirable area that's walkable up to Canton Street. And I live in an area where they're tearing the homes down and putting up these beautiful homes. Nothing against that. It's increasing the value of my home. The problem is, I'm not sure how much oversight there is on the water, and if properties may be built up, I'm not sure. And if there's a way that I can find out what the elevation certificates are prior to it being built up to afterwards, and if it would be okay, I'd like to share some of the pictures in the last 3 weeks of what has happened to my property. Or I could pass them along.
1 minute, let me see if we can get somebody that can help with that.
And I should add, in particular, we have one property where water was pooling on the left side, and in the last 3 weeks, somebody put in a drain, and we have sediment going out into the street, down into the drains, into our properties. I wanted to find out if permits are required for that as well. I don't want to waste anyone's time. I can pass them along, and you can just kind of flip through them if you'd like. Really what my concern is how do we keep other homes that are being torn down? We have 7 homes that are under construction right now where they're tearing them down and building them up. I'm concerned not just this particular homes that were built, but the future for everybody else. So this one, as you can see, is that water is pooling to the left side. I don't know what the elevation, if it's been raised, if it hasn't, what's permitted, what's not. I'm not accusing anybody of anything. I just want to know, because in the 5 years that I've lived there, it's never done this. As well as I have a neighbor across the street and other people on the property that have lived there since day one that said it has never flooded. You can see where the drain was put in 3 weeks ago, and now water is pooling to the right of the house. It's rushing. I've got videotapes of it, and then it's also going out into the streets and down into the drains. I don't know if there's something that can be done or who I can speak with to find out if this is, I don't want this to happen to other neighbors, so that I'm really outside of my comfort zone for being here, but I really want to make sure other people aren't impacted. This is the sediment and garbage that is going down into the drains. This is my property, which has never had water on it. I was told by the development, somebody in the city of Roswell, that it had to do with a change in weather patterns. In 2018, it was the wettest year on record. It didn't start flooding until this year. Last but least, this is my property. I love flowers, I love gardening, and it's really bothering me that this is happening. So I was just wondering if there's any way to find out if permits are required, that type of thing. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for coming tonight and sharing that with us. If you would wait after the meeting, Mr. Palmer, our city administrator, would love to talk with you, and he can help you with the issue.
Thank you very much for hearing me out.
Thank you. Who would like to come forward and speak? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Sally McKenzie, and I live at 47 Goulding Place in Roswell. I wanted to come tonight to talk a little bit about the proposed historic gateway plan that impacts Azalea, Riverside, and Highway 9 from the river to the square. I know that RDOT has worked so hard on this project, and it has been something that has been in the works for a long time, since 2011 or 2012. And I know I have to give them a heck of a lot of credit. It's a good plan for moving a lot of cars through Roswell and accommodating the exponential population explosion that is occurring in Cherokee and Fulton right now. I don't have my dates right, but my understanding is that the population of Cherokee County is in the process of doubling in the next 10 years or so. I can't remember what the starting point was, but so, you know, as far as moving cars through Roswell during rush hour, I understand what they are trying to do, and I applaud them. However, I do also, I am concerned that it will end up being something that induces traffic rather than reducing congestion. It's just going to induce it. So if we build it, they will come. And what we are talking about is a 95-foot wide, from edge of sidewalk to edge of sidewalk, massive swatch of pavement going through an amazing entrance to our historic district and to our city. And this, yes, this is my opinion, but fortunately, my opinion is also the opinion of Andreas Dewiney. I always get his name wrong, but renowned urban planner who graced Roswell with his presence and with his ideas in 2012. Also, Kayla Bryce-Sakat, who is the consultant running the master plan process right now. He is in complete agreement. What we have is a gem, an amazing gem with so much potential. And what we appear to be doing is, rather than looking at how we can make this area a destination, we are following RDOT's lead and looking at how we can speed cars through Roswell. We want them to come to Roswell and spend their money here. We all reckon there's no one, I don't think there's anybody in Roswell that doesn't agree that there is a need to improve the safety in that stretch of road. That's not the issue. But there are many people, for many reasons, or many people who seek a kinder, gentler version of the Gateway Project for many reasons. From my perspective, it's about what's right for the Roswell Historic District. And the mass and scale of the grade separation at the river, along with a 95-foot wide, and that is the same width, by the way, as Highway 120 east, or just past the Willio Road intersection. Take a look. That's what we're talking about. From edge of the sidewalk to edge of the sidewalk. That's the width we are talking about for historic Roswell. That's where I am coming from. But there are so many other perspectives to consider here. The economic impact on existing local businesses, the ripple effect economically, basically the limiting what the potential is for that area as a destination, rather than encouraging it as a cut-through. If this plan goes through as proposed, we are separating the neighborhoods of the historic district, and we are eliminating the possibility for this area to become the scenic, aesthetic, cultural, historic, recreational, really cool destination that it could be. We should be spending our T-SPLOS dollars on making it a drive-to rather than a cut-through. We should be considering grade separation and really cool advanced traffic techniques on Holcomb Bridge, where big rigs should be. Big rigs should not be driving up and down Highway 9. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to come forward and speak? Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mayor Henry and council members. I'm Richard Arena. I live at 830 Jones Road, been there for 45 years. I had a presentation that I was going to do on slides tonight, but given the problems that we experienced over here, and it looks like the computer's done there, that would be like doing a pantomime on radio, you know. So I'm going to change my remarks from about solving traffic congestion, some thoughts on that, to listening to some of the other comments here. I just got back from LaGrange. I spent the weekend there with some friends. I have a long relationship with the city of LaGrange. I've been going there since the 1960s. And what I've seen in recent years is a lot of change, a lot of true progress. Change is not necessarily progress. You know, change is change. Progress is making things better. And what I see happening in LaGrange is true, what I consider to be true progress, where they have destinations, very interesting destinations. The things that are happening in that city are done for the benefit of the citizens of that city, and not necessarily first and foremost for like real estate speculators, lenders, developers, or whatever. And I asked the friends that we went down to visit with, you know, why is it they're so successful at making these kinds of changes, and we're struggling? It seems like so often when I come here to City Hall, the place is packed with red shirts and pitchforks, and people are angry about this or that or the other thing. Why? What's different down there than up here? And he said to me, he said, we got several things going for us. Number one, we got the Callaway Foundation, and the Callaways are intent on making sure that the improvements that go there are for the people who live in LaGrange and Troup County. The other thing is you have a population where a lot of people are from there, and so they really care about their community. They're involved, and we're a lot more transient here in Roswell than they are there. So I think those are major things, and I would encourage you all, if you've not been down to LaGrange lately, to go down there and take a look. Mayor Thornton down there, he's a very fine gentleman, and he'll be happy to talk with you all and tell you about some very interesting things that they have done to keep their tax base up and that kind of thing. But anyway, I thank you for your time and for your service to the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arena. Is there anyone else that would like to come forward?
Mayor and Council, Lee Fleck, 435 North Pond Trail. I'm here tonight to try and get a definitive answer on when the gap analysis by the Committee for Public Safety Management is going to be available. Every week I ask for it and I get the same story. Oh, it'll be ready soon, it'll be ready soon. I've heard rumors that it's been delayed because you've added the park police into the evaluation, which is kind of laughable. We spent over $80,000 to get that report. It was supposed to be done a month ago today. Now, I would like a definitive date on when that report, and you know what? California is still open right now. You got 15 minutes to pick up the phone and call them and get a definitive answer when that report is going to be here in Roswell. And I want the in-house report. I don't want the public report. We all know that, or some of you may not know, but Investigative reporter Brandon Keefe has definitely identified the city has two forms of reports. The in-house report, which is a true report, and then a report, the redacted report that is given to the public. I mean, I've seen some of these reports are just a joke, where all you got's the name at the top and the entire text is blanked out. At any rate, again, I'm looking forward to that report because that report is to analyze any specific issues in our police department. And we all know we have had some serious problems ever since Ed Williams left. And I definitely am very interested in analyzing that report once it comes through because I've got a lot of experience in the Roswell Police Department. Thank you.
I would like to state for the record that the report that he's referring to should be to us within a couple of weeks. It will be presented at a public meeting, so everything that we see, you'll see, and you can see it as soon as we see it. So please just, and I'll ask someone to get in touch with you to make sure, Mr. Fleck, that you know when it's going to be presented at a public meeting. Who else would like to come forward and speak? Yes, sir.
I'm Jason Yowell, 5010 Old Oak Trace. I've lived here for 26 years. The reason I'm speaking tonight is about the Gateway project on Highway 9. I'd like to urge you all to put a hard pause on this project and consider redesigning it. It has been misrepresented to the public in certain ways. It is a design that will basically be known as the rape of Roswell because of the amount of trees that will need to come out in the current design. It's more a gateway to Cobb County than it is to historic Roswell, and the functionality of it with the Cockamamie intersection that's going to require a second crossing over Vickery Creek is environmentally destructive, hideously expensive, and will create gridlock on the river. It has not been thought out very well. The misrepresentations start with the idea that, and I've gone to the public meetings in Roswell, DOT says, well, this isn't going to be very disruptive to the National Forest because the curb line for the road remains the same. The curb line may be remaining the same, but there is a plan to put an 8-foot walkway separated by an 8-foot beauty strip in an area where the National Forest currently starts exactly 3 feet behind the edge of the sidewalk. And at the edge of the sidewalk, the grade either goes sharply up or sharply down. Now, if you're going to extend something fairly level 16 feet into the abyss, you're going to have an amount of grading and clearing that has not been adequately represented. I've asked Roswell DOT for grading plans. They don't really have them available to the public. This is kind of interesting considering that the right-of-way plans are showing right-of-way slope easements in the National Forest. Now, if you're going to go that far with your design, surely you've got grading plans and you know exactly how far you're going to go. I've asked, do you have a tree survey and a tree count? No, we don't. We don't have to do that. I know that when I do something anywhere in the state of Georgia, I've got to come up with a tree count. I've got to come up with a tree survey. And if people knew that they're talking about taking out hundreds of trees and grading and clearing about 2 to 3 acres for the sidewalk, they'd be really shocked. There isn't another state highway in the entire state of Georgia that has a national forest starting literally 3 feet behind the back of curb. That is a unique feature. That is a feature that creates this tree canopy as you come up the hill that tells you you are in Roswell. When you clear out this tree canopy and you put in a 14-foot median in the middle of the road and make it look like Cobb County, you're not a historic gateway. You're a suburban gateway to Cobb County. Don't kid yourselves. It is unconscionable. Now, I've talked to several of you about taking, for this one particular facet of it, doing a gravel path through the woods instead of a paved concrete walkway that parallels the curb. And I've suggested this to Roswell DOT representatives as well. What I've been told is that's not possible because A, the National Park Service won't allow it, and B, the National Park Service has enthusiastically embraced this plan. Well, I went over to meet with Bill Cox, the superintendent for the Chattahoochee Natural Forest, with Sally McKenzie to see what his take on this was. He said that, no, he thinks that would be a great idea to have a gravel path rather than to take out all the trees. And I've also been told that the National Park Service would object to bicycles using this path. He said, no, I think it would be a great idea for people to ride their bikes on a path like this down to the river. So I thought that was kind of an interesting take from the horse's mouth, considering the representations that have been made to me by city officials that wasn't possible and that the National Park Service had enthusiastically bought into this concept. This kind of misrepresentation really calls for a hard pause. Now, Roswell DOT says, no, we've been working on this for 20 years. Really, 20 years, and this is a plan you've come up with? To take away some of the most distinctive natural features as you enter Roswell and call it a gateway to the historic district? No, pause. If it took them 20 years to come up with this plan, I think in 20 days you could come up with a much better one. I know I could do it in 20 minutes. This is unconscionable.
Thank you, sir.
It's got to be stopped.
Thank you for your comments. I would like to add a couple of comments for the record. Number one, the city of Roswell always follows its own ordinances, so I can assure you that trees will be counted. Right now in the budget, we've got a full-time arborist that we're reintroducing into the city, and that is part of what that person will do, but no, the city is going to follow our own ordinances. Now, let me also say this. The state of Georgia, that's another question on what the state of Georgia is doing. However, I know this council is committed to making sure that whatever we do is environmentally friendly, and I'm not talking about the design, I'm just saying as far as following our own ordinances. But I also would like to add that a gravel sidewalk would not be ADA compliant. So I'm not saying we can't look at things and talk about this Gateway project, but there are a couple of things that I just wanted you all to know. Is there anyone else that would like to come forward and speak? Oh, Councilmember Grower, go ahead.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Yell. I do understand the sensitivity around this project. The biggest challenge is trying to visualize what it's going to look like when it's done. I met with Mohammed, our new Director of Transportation, the other day. He is going to be having a professional firm doing accurate renderings. Those are photographs, so that we can all look at this and try to figure out if we understand what this project's going to look like, and whether everyone is comfortable with it. So I think a logical next step in this project is for us to have accurate renderings so we know what this looks like, because it's very hard for us to know where the road's going to be, where the curb line's going to be, and I don't want it. I think we all don't want it to be prettied up with trees that aren't going to be there. And we need accurate renderings, and I'm confident that our DOT is going to be coming up with that.
Thank you, Councilmember Grower. Is there anyone else that would like to come? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Stacy Anderson. We live at 1785 Riverside Road. I don't understand the Gateway project as much as the traffic that is at 400 and Holcomb Bridge, and why we're spending all this money and doing all that. We got a new ramp going southbound. I travel it every day. No matter what time of day, it's bogged down. We got everybody now goes to the right pretty easily. Going to the left is a nightmare. We have panhandlers out there 5 out of 7 days of the week. I don't know if y'all know that. I also have businesses in Alpharetta. No panhandlers in Alpharetta. There's a husband and wife team or girlfriend-boyfriend team. One stands at the southbound, one stands at the northbound. So I think that needs to be cleared up. But the Gateway project, I mean, I travel that also. It is busy, nothing like 400 and Holcomb Bridge. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would like to let you all know that we are looking at solutions for Holcomb Bridge and 400. So this is not an either-or. There is a project that I'm hoping will come through. We all are, along with the managed lanes on Georgia 400. So I think that we'll look at some congestion relief here in Roswell as well. Is there anyone else that would like to come forward? Yes.
Sam Shantos, 1520 Oakwood Drive, Roswell, Georgia. Resident for 20 years here in Roswell. This is not where I live, this is home. I have notes, and I'm going to stick to the notes. So I've been taking notes while here, but I'm going to stick to what I wanted to say before I got here. And first and foremost, I want you to know that I am here representing the Roswell Creekways project. I think all of you are aware of the project, and so I just wanted to give you an update. I'm here to tell you about the progress that has been made within our Trails network, and I want to encourage you to take a hard look at moving this project along at a faster pace in order for us to be able to keep up with the cities that surround Roswell. I've met with many of you since we had our first meeting in January, and I want to publicly thank you for your support. We've made numerous contacts and connections over the past 4 months, and I want to share with you what has happened. Over the past 4 months, we have held 2 individual Creekways hikes. We have held 1 Creekways cleanup, and we have also had a Roswell Camino Trail excursion. Since January, over 50 people have been along the creeks in the past 4 months. And this year, we hope to have over 200 people see, learn, and experience the beauty that Roswell has to offer. As a group, we hope to encourage and facilitate trail growth as we look forward to working with you on our Creekways project. This upcoming weekend, we have gained statewide support and sponsorship at the Georgia Trails Conference to be held in Columbus, Georgia. We are eager to share our vision with the state and to bring our enthusiasm back to you. As an organization, we are pro-multimodal transportation that is routed along the creeks and within our hidden historic areas, of which there are many. Please join us publicly and support us publicly and privately. We are only on Facebook currently. Our mission is Creeks Connecting Community. One additional note that I would like to say is for those of you that were able to participate in the Roswell Moves, I know I saw you out there, we would like to thank you for participating in that event. It was exciting for me to see what happens when you shut the street down and you look at alternative options. And so it was good to see, Matt, I know you were out there, and I'm sure many of you were out there as well. And so for those of you that I have not met with since January, I apologize. I'm getting to you. And for those of you that have been working with me and with us, thank you. and we look forward to giving you feedback after this weekend. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, and thank you for coming. I was completely unaware of this group and a project and what you're doing in Roswell, but I'm sure that you're doing wonderful things. So thank you, and as the mayor of the city, I will look forward to meeting with you. Is there anyone else that would like to come forward? Yes, sir.
Mayor and council, I appreciate the work you do. It's not easy to please everybody. The Creekways project folks are
Would you
doing great
please
work.
identify yourself for the record? Thank
I'm
you.
Gus Haydorn. I live at Pine Valley.
Thank you.
But the Creekways project is one that I fully endorse because I think they're addressing transportation in a way that we really need to address it. It needs to be a multifaceted thing. You know, the automobile is pretty much designed Atlanta, and it's doing a pretty darn good job of designing Roswell as well. And I am concerned about the Highway 9 project. A lot of it has to do with the natural beauty that we have here and preserving as much of that as we possibly can. And the fact that it ties the natural world, the river, to the historic district. I think maintaining that with all of its integrity is as important as it's very important. But the one issue that we don't talk about, and you know, we have a tendency, I think, all of us, personally and politically, to look at the short term, but the long term's coming. And an issue that doesn't get talked about on this Creekway project very much, we are addressing the trees issue because they're related to the natural beauty, but I wanted to kind of approach it from a different angle. You know, what's happened up and down 400 is an example of some kind of disconnect, I suppose. We have a carbon problem. I went to school, I believe in science, and the solution on 400 is to take down thousands of trees and widen the highway. I mean, that's an old concept, you know, that we've kind of outgrown, or we need to be growing it very quickly. And for our Highway 9 project, you know, we need to be thinking long term. We need to be thinking about, you know, what are we leaving our kids here? You know, this isn't a cut-through city that we want them to have. This is a place of beauty, and it's also a place where we, you know, we do care about the climate that's here, and we need to be practicing best practices that will ensure that we don't contribute to the carbon problem that is of great concern worldwide. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else that would like to come forward and speak? Yes, sir.
My name is Jason Lamp, and I live in Willow Springs with Bob, and I was just going to add a few things to that. I don't know if you're real familiar with the area over there, but we're planning on doing widening the road over there on Haynes Bridge, and I think that project's going to take around 3 years. I could be off a little bit, but I drop my kids off in the morning over at Holy Redeemer. I'm not sure if you're familiar where that is, but I normally go down to Buckhead, so I got to get on 400. And not every morning right now, but probably 2 mornings a week so far, and it's getting worse. My Waze app actually tells me to go through my neighborhood to get on 400. And I'm just concerned what's going to happen when we got this project going on for 3 years, and everyone's GPS is just literally going to be turning we got 2 side entrances, and then we got the main loop that goes around. And what this Waze app is going to do is tell everyone to go, or whatever GPS they're using, to literally go through our neighborhood. And it already does that now, a couple days a week. So I've got 2 little boys, and we can't ride our bikes in the neighborhood. I'm literally trapped in my neighborhood. I can't get to the Greenway. I can't get to the mountain bike the park over there, because I would never begin to even take my kids out on our streets, because there's just too much traffic, and it's a cut through over there. So maybe we could think about budgeting some money or something for a sidewalk to go when you guys do this project, because it's just going to be a nightmare of traffic coming through there. Somebody will get hit at some point. It's going to happen. So I thank you for your time, and I appreciate everything you guys do.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else that would like to come forward? Yes.
Hi, I'm Steve Soldavini. I live in Country Club Roswell, Willow Springs as well. And I serve, excuse me? Okay, is that better? I also live in Country Club Roswell, Willow Springs. I'm here to talk about the sidewalk ordinance, or I'm not sure exactly what it's been titled, that's been provided to you guys to look over and possibly consider to pass. Go along with what Bob and Jason have said, our neighborhood is a cut through. I used to live on the main drag in that neighborhood on Roxburgh Drive a couple years ago. We moved off the main road, stayed in the neighborhood, but moved into a cul-de-sac because of the traffic. I have a 3- and 6-year-old boy. So it's just not a place that you even feel safe, not just walking or riding your bike on the street, but having your children play in the front yard, knowing that at some point a ball or something is going to go out into the street. And it's just heavy traffic area. Jason is right. It's always been a cut through. It's been to our advantage in the past. Years back, we still have the ability to get on 400 at 3 separate entrances, which is great for us traffic-wise to get out to where we want to go. But as people drive through the area, they're coming through our neighborhood. The ordinance that's been proposed, I really are just hopeful that you guys will consider what we're asking. We're not asking for the city to pony up dollars. We're not asking for the city to come in and tell our neighbors what they have to do. We're just asking for your help. The ordinance is something that's going to allow neighborhoods like ours that are older, mature neighborhoods. I moved into this neighborhood in 1979 as a child when my parents moved here. And back then it was Horseshoe Bend, it was Willow Springs, Rivermont, and Brookfield West. Those were the 4 big major neighborhoods that were built in those standards. And nowadays, they don't meet any of those standards as far as sidewalks or as far as streetlights. These are the 2 things safety-wise for our children in these neighborhoods that are just so outdated, and it feels to us, and we have the backing of other neighbors in these other neighborhoods too that agree with us, that are willing to come down here if we need to en masse, just to let you guys know that we are the vocal majority, not the vocal minority, and we're going to change your perspective of how that is. But to let you guys know that this is very important to us. Every neighborhood in the city that gets built now has a sidewalk and proper street lighting, and we just feel neglected. We've been paying taxes in this city for decades. As Bob mentioned, we joined Roswell in the 90s. Thinking that this would be the right thing. We had a choice, Roswell, Alpharetta. At the time, Roswell was the city, and Alpharetta was more of a little behind the times, still more of a farm town that was kind of catching up. But they've by far surpassed us, and now we're at a point where we're just asking the city to take a look at helping us help ourselves, allow these neighborhoods to do internally, if we want to make this an internal fight, at least that when we come to you with the support, that there's something in place in writing that says you will agree to help us, and this is the next step. And we can hear council members and mayors tell us, if you come to us with this, we'll help you, we'll back you, but that's really not good enough. We need something in place that's in writing so that if we go through this fight, we go through all of this to make our neighborhoods safer, upgrade the value of our neighborhoods so that they are compliant with today's standards of every other neighborhood that's built in the city. That when we come to you with this, it's not a question of should we help these guys or not. It's just, yes, it's in writing. They've done their job, and now it's our turn to do our job because it's the right thing to do. It's just something I can't understand why that on your side you wouldn't help support this. It's been done in other cities. The person that brought this to us first and then brought it to you guys as a whole researched the entire country of other cities that have done this and are doing it and upgrading. They're basically retrofitting. If you want to look at every building that was built, that's now a LEED building or a green building, it's because they were retrofitted when the world decided, hey, we need to start looking out for ourselves for the future. Well, all we're doing is trying to retrofit our neighborhood. Other neighborhoods get built up, and we're falling behind the times when we're in an area where we feel our property is very valuable, and people will come through there and say, yeah, but I can't walk my kids on the street. My old next door neighbor actually was one of the people that did get hit by a car, and she sold her house and moved. And it was just for that reason. Said if we had sidewalks, I could walk my dog with the stroller of my child and I would feel safe. But at this point, we can't. And we're just asking for you to help after we do some hard work, that you guys be there for us and have it in writing so that we know there's no ifs, ands, or buts when it gets done. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else that would like to come forward? I don't see any movement. Last call. Well, thank you all again for coming out tonight. I have made extensive notes, as well as Mr. Palmer, so we will look into these issues and resolve what we can and talk with you and continue to communicate on these projects. So thank you all very much. This meeting is adjourned.